everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Tuesday, September 28th. And if we could all start, pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Move on to item number 2. That's to review the Walton Mills Park landscape improvement and timber line with Maranda Nemeth, project manager for the Atlantic Salmon Federation.
Hi, that's me. I'm Miranda. Nice to see you guys. So this is smaller than I was expecting, so this will be good. Just a couple of us. Yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity. We're moving along in our design phase. We're at the 75% point, striving towards final design, and with that in mind, I wanted to take the chance to meet with you guys and review where we are. I prepared a PowerPoint. It's more illustrative. You have a copy of the design plan, so that's a lot more detail with the engineering, and I hope that after this presentation it'll give you a chance to more easily go through those plans, because they're quite heavy and they bounce back and forth. We have quite a big team, so I know it's a lot there, so hopefully this will make it easier to go through those plans. But before I dive into the project, I just wanted to give an update on the road crossings that we've been working on. That was a part of the bigger agreement that was signed off on. So Clover Mill Road and farther up along closer towards Cummings Hill Road, those 2 road crossings. So we were able to replace Clover Mill Road. Here's some shots of, I included a before photo for reference, but then during, where we were erecting the concrete structural support walls that would hold the arch, so then you can see the aluminum arch as it was installed. So those walls are now underground, but they were stabilized on ledge and they support that arch. And then we were able to bring the road up a couple of feet, so it looks higher than the before photo, to take it outside the floodplain, farther outside the floodplain, and with the guardrails for safety and stabilized slopes. The site is complete, so there's a school bus already running right through from a couple weeks ago. So we've completely demobilized out of that site. EL Vining completed the construction. And Cummings Hill Road, EL Vining will also complete that site. However, we did have to postpone the construction of that road crossing. We ran into some issues with a supplier. They had cut their staff in half through the pandemic. They cut their staff and they were unable to commit to delivery times. And we found out about that in August, and so we decided to postpone the project. With that in mind, we wouldn't get all of our products to site in time to finish. So we'll work on that in July through August of next year, and we'll coordinate closely again with Phil and Dick throughout that process with the construction to make sure all the road work is coordinated. So that's the update on those crossings.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Questions as we go. Yeah.
In regards to the culvert, are you anticipating to be a similar culvert like this, or is it going to be the full precast concrete culvert?
Yeah, that's a great question. They are 2 separate types of structures. So this is an aluminum arch with the concrete walls, and then Cummings Hill Road is a box that's precast concrete, and that's the product that we couldn't assure an adequate delivery time. So really important product. That will be a precast box. And so a different structure, but the bottom will be buried, so it'll appear when you look at it when we're done, it'll appear as if it's just 3 sides, but it will be 4-sided. And I think we have copies of those plans if folks want to review those more closely and revisit them, but that will be a precast box.
And was that the anticipation of this culvert?
Great memory, Josh. Yes, you are correct. We had intended to do both sides as a precast box. But the evolution of raising the road occurred throughout like January, February. We decided that we would raise the road much higher, and then we went right into bidding really quickly, so we hadn't quite thought through that engineering process. When we went to bid with EL Vining, the bids were quite high. They were actually higher than our fundraised budget, so we were already struggling to meet a budget to begin with. So this, transferring the design to an aluminum arch option helped us save a little bit of money, but still meet the structural needs and the size. So we did decide in the middle of that bidding process to change the structural type. Kept in touch with Dick and Phil throughout that process. So he was in the loop with that change, and our engineer, redesigned and evaluated the calculations, and we had a structural engineer involved as well. So it was all pretty validated, but it did help us save a little bit of money. We still had to transfer some funds from the Walton's Mill Dam removal project to make sure this was made happen, just given the increase in costs. But it all happened quite quickly over a course of a couple of months. But good memory.
Oh, I remember.
I wasn't sure if anybody remember that besides me. So you're right.
This application works better for that site anyway. Where
Yeah.
the ledge is, we would have had trouble getting the box in.
Exactly.
Probably had to move
Yeah.
farther north.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I drove
Exactly.
up there at one point when it was wide open and they had it closed up. I drove up.
Oh, yeah,
so
you could see.
And I'm like, boy, it's a bigger hole here than you're
It is,
anticipating.
when they opened that window, I saw that too.
Right, but we wanted to make sure we had a foundation that was sound. So yeah, it ended up that also added costs in the middle of construction. We didn't think ledge was, down in there. We can't really do borings underneath an electrical line very easily, so we only did our borings on the upstream end, and ledge was where we thought it was. And then as you can see when I look at that photo in the middle there, ledge just drops. So it was much, much deeper than we had anticipated. So a couple of changes throughout to accommodate all that, but good memory. Yeah. And I think, Dick, I agree in the end. And I think if we had taken our time a little bit more, maybe we would have found our conclusion by ourselves, but it all came together. So. Great. Just giving an update on the road crossings that we had completed, Clover Mill Road, and we had to postpone the Cummings Hill Road crossing until 2021. So these are some photos of that Clover Mill Road crossing.
You're putting in two, that's one of them?
That's correct. Yes, we had to postpone the second crossing. The supplier for the crossing itself was unable to commit to a delivery in time. They had to cut their staff, this and that, with the pandemic. So it kind of spiraled out that we would just postpone to make sure we could meet the construction deadlines. So.
And just a quick update on the road, we're just about ready to pave, depending on the paver's schedule. We are gonna have some guardrail installed at the 43 intersection and another place farther up towards Porter Hill where there's a steep drop off on both sides. And I think those will go in before the paving. And we should see pavement down in the next 2-3 weeks.
Great.
Real quick on the date. How much is higher as a road any?
I think it's 3 feet.
It's 3
3
feet.
feet higher? Okay.
Yeah,
I
3
thought
feet
so
higher.
when I'd driven out to the hole. I haven't been on it since it's been finished, but
Yeah.
just driving, I'm like, this seems higher.
Yeah.
And you can see that.
The hole before,
Right.
it
Yeah.
seemed like.
One
Yeah.
way flooded.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Okay, so those are road crossings and road update there. So now I'll switch gears again back to the intent of the whole presentation, talking about the dam removal and the park improvement project. And again, it's going to be a little more illustrative versus going through the plans sheet by sheet. As we're doing now, happy to take questions as we go through the project. I'm going to start in the in-stream. It kind of follows the construction sequence that we intend to follow, that you'll see on one of the engineering sheets, our sequence that we're proposing. So this is just a rendering. You guys have seen this before of the dam removal post removal, what we expect the stream to sort of look like underneath of that. So again, I'll start with that. The dam removal we expect to complete in 3 phases, and we do anticipate to start construction in 2021. So we're still on track for next year. So phase 1 will be drawdown, and we would like to use the gate that's existing. That gate's rather new, is a part of the 2007, in that frame, dam improvements. So it's a 3-foot diameter orifice. It's a sluice gate, and so we will utilize that to open up the impoundment, and we would do that after ice out in the spring. We would monitor those conditions and and wait until complete ice out and open that gate, and that really allows us to go through a more gradual drawdown of the impoundment. This was actually not in the engineering sheets. You could see it was still in draft, so I didn't want to submit it quite yet, but once we have it finalized, I'll make sure folks receive this as well. But this is a schematic of the drawdown in the different phases. So the teal represents the drawdown once we open up the gate. Now, it's not, automatic, and as Josh, you talked about in 2007, you guys saw what the impoundment looks like after you open up the gate. It's a small opening. In the spring it does rain a lot, as you guys know. Not so much this year, but usually it does rain a lot, and so it would be fluctuating over the course of a couple of weeks. It could take up to 45 days for that teal area to fully draw down. Just really depends on the weather and what kind of rainfall we see. But after opening up the gate, that's our goal, is to get to the teal initial drawdown phase. And so that would take 3 to 6 feet down. So in terms of water depth, it would be a 3 to 6 feet drop over the course of that time period for that first phase when we open up the gate. So the yellow area is what would be left. So after the dam is fully removed, those yellow areas would be drawn down after the dam is breached. So the teal, the gate really gets us down majority of the way, and then the dark blue is what we anticipate to be the river channel after dam removal. So your ordinary high water mark, certainly not the water levels that would be right there right now given the pretty moderate drought that we're experiencing, but that's an ordinary high water mark that we expect, and that was put together through modeling and taking a look at bathymetry data. Oops, skipped ahead there. So that's the drawdown, utilizing the gate in that phase process. And the other reason we want to phase it, there's a couple of reasons why did we choose after ice out, and why not just open it right now, or why not just wait till July? It does take a while to gradually draw down, and there is waterfowl habitat in this area, so IF&W would rather see it done early so that waterfowl can adapt during their nesting period, which starts in May into June. So they have that ability to adapt and not be just, interrupted in the very middle of their nesting period. Atlantic salmon are present in Temple Stream, so we want to accommodate their downstream migration as well. And then the vegetation. So we're about to expose a ton of area that's currently underwater. And so by opening it up as early as we can, wetland scientists that we're consulting with, validates that it'll give the vegetation in those wet areas enough time to grow and stabilize as quickly as possible. So it would have summer and into fall, that entire growing period to fully come in as much as it can in those areas. So those are some of the reasons why we're choosing to go down that road with drawdown. I guess some other reasons I'm seeing now in my notes. Freshwater mussels, we want to relocate those as much as possible, and we are conducting archaeological surveys as well to make sure we're compliant with any cultural resources that may pop up. So all these things, led to the timing.
You say you're gonna relocate the mussels.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Since
No.
you're gonna take the home of almost anything that lives in there, you're not gonna relocate anything else either.
No, we've been consulting with IF&W over the past couple of months really closely, so they've been in the loop. So a lot of what I'm showing you today is the result of conversations with all those agencies, and they've taken a look at this area, and there's no species of endangered or threatened or of concern from their management perspective. Even freshwater mussels aren't threatened or of concern, but they advised that we try to relocate those to the greatest extent that we could, but they didn't identify any other species that we would have to address.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah, there's
Why mussels and
all
not
kind
anything
of
else?
potential.
Mm.
I think it's just because we can readily, we can move those as much as we can. They're easy to, well, there's going to be a lot, but They're kind of easy to pick out and move
Yeah.
down, and it kind of creates a little bit of an eyesore too, because they sort of perish quickly if they're exposed, and then they're just, everywhere.
Josh?
You know, I just was thinking about the animals and such that are present currently.
Mhm.
So, maybe this is off topic, but the current beaver population, which I don't even know what that is, if it's just a couple, I don't think it's many, and they don't have a hutch.
Mhm.
Dan.
Den,
Yeah,
yeah.
currently that I'm aware of in there, I haven't seen one, not that I've gone looking or.
Oh, yeah.
What's to stop them from, or what would you guys do if they build a dam?
If they
The
build a
beaver.
dam. That is closely monitored by DMR and IFNW, and they have, and I don't know the specifics of how they determine when to breach a beaver dam. They do have parameters that they follow, and they do breach beaver dams if they become an issue for fish, or mainly for fish, but there could be other wildlife that they're concerned about. So they do keep an eye on it. We keep an eye on it, and sometimes we'll point some out if we're hearing about issues occurring with fish passage and dams, but usually the landowners in which the beaver dam's on have to be consulted. There's some process, but
I just was curious, because I mean,
yeah,
if they're currently there, and then you take the dam away, then.
right.
what's
It's
the-
tough.
They're gonna
Yeah.
be like, well,
Yeah.
we need some water, we're gonna build the
Yeah.
dam.
Exactly.
the first thing they can.
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
And they
how.
naturally do, that's just a
Right.
part
Yeah.
of any other riverine system that they
I
do
just-
their thing. And
Curious on how.
but yeah,
yeah.
we do monitor, because they can be a little bit of a nuisance for passage.
Right, so what would Atlantic salmon, what would your position to be if obviously they start building a dam in year 2?
They'd have to be really sizable. Salmon can jump
Okay.
pretty high, a couple feet, not 15, but they can jump pretty high, a couple feet. And they're strong swimmers, so sometimes in beaver dams there's some openings in the bottom. They're not fully, fortified,
Right.
and fish can find that, because if there's an opening, it's causing flow, and they're attracted to flow. So sometimes they'll find where those openings are and get through okay. So it'd have to be a very and that's what I mean. They usually, the fisheries agencies have, I just don't know them off by heart, the parameters that they deem, okay, that's a concern, and we should try to
Yeah.
remove that or breach it.
We have to do that occasionally, we'll have to breach a beaver dam because it's causing road flooding.
So there's
And
that too.
culverts, and we can install extruder devices, you've seen those.
Yeah.
We do that in consultation with IFNW.
Yep.
So I think they, like you said, they would be involved
They would be.
in advising us
Yeah.
probably how to deal with that, or I'm saying that. I don't know
Yeah.
if you'd be putting extruder devices in the screen, but.
Right.
Right. There's some
Certainly.
options. So, yeah, good question. Drawdown. All right. So once.
That's a quick
Oh yeah,
question.
absolutely.
You mentioned the archaeological, and I know, I wasn't there last week, but there was a
Mhm.
historian at the dam, and I was curious whether anything was found of any significance.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. We did have, as a part of our compliance, we have to have a historian come out to create what's called an engineering record. And he takes, I don't know photography terms, but very high quality photos with his fancy equipment. And so he did all that. So he was more so documenting the dam, and he met with Jane from the Historical Society and a couple other folks, I can't remember their names, but so he was collecting information on the history, and he was asking them, do you know of any other maps or deeds that I can look at? So he was trying to create a lineage and put all the pieces together of the whole history of the dam.
Mhm.
And so from what I know of, he was sort of utilizing everything Jane brought
Mhm.
with her, photos and old information, and he was going to go take a look at some deeds and try to do some tracing. Jane had mentioned that they've had trouble doing that. It just kind of hit a dead end a couple of times, so he was going to look into that. But I expect a report from him in the next couple of months that's more formally summarizing his findings. So he was focused on documenting the dam and its history, so putting that together, and then then the archaeologists are the ones that would actually do any
Right.
probing around.
Sure. That
looking.
hasn't been done yet.
No, and we're just starting to figure out a schedule. Now that we have plans, we can figure that out a little more closely. So I know they intend to take a look at the shoreline, at least on the town-owned land. We'd have to figure out private land, and they would have to kind of, what they need to do is determine what is a priority, and they can't cover every square inch of what we have open. That's just impossible. So they need to do a little bit more research on, and they have processes like looking at land forms and old records, and I don't really know the gist of it, but they figure out how to prioritize what to look at based on land forms.
We want to go back to those busy little beavers. So if they do build a dam, and what it does is impede the upstream migration of the salmon,
Uh-huh.
then as soon as that is noted, do you come in and take the dam out?
No, I'm not allowed to do anything like that. It would have to be IFNW or DMR.
Well, I said you, but
Oh.
who would say, we can't be allowing this to happen, and they'd come and remove the dam?
I don't know, since I'm not ever involved in the nitty-gritty details. The state fishery agencies like IFNW and DMR handle the logistics. I'm not sure how it all really comes together sometimes. I think they have some level of authority because they manage species within resources, but I'm not 100% familiar
Well,
with.
where I'm going with it is, it doesn't become the town's responsibility to remove that.
I doubt it, because unless it's on your property.
No, I mean, like I said, we take care of it when they impede culverts. But I think where this is a natural resource that belongs to the state, it would be a state issue with IFNW.
Yeah. So they figure it out. Yeah.
And just hire a contractor to come in with an excavator, let them tear it
Yeah.
out.
Or
That's what they usually do.
yeah, there.
Stick it down.
Yeah, that works
Those are the
too.
little ones. They don't let play with this anymore.
I wish so. Sorry, I don't know enough about
No,
managing beavers. I'd love to learn more, but I'm not sure.
You've got one, you've got 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I
It
think I learned last
seems
year.
like a black hole.
I took over a brook behind my house.
Yeah.
That was 7. The other 4 took it off, they had it.
Right. There's nothing keeping them in check anymore, so like they can totally
They're not worth
proliferate.
anything, so nobody traps them.
No trapping, no large predators really going after them. So
Yeah, they really don't anyways.
So, yeah. So once we, the initial drawdown, we would open the gate after ice out, and then we would allow it to fluctuate, naturalize out, draw down as much as it can, and then starting July 15th, where the state work window, we're allowed to enter the water. So we would prepare to do that and create an access road and actually get into the water starting July 15th. So when you're looking at the plans, this is considered phase 2 in the engineering design plans. So July 15th, we would build this access road within the stream itself. This is sort of fuzzy, but so this access road is right, here's the dam here, so this is sitting right above it, and that's a general cross-section schematic of what that would look like. So creating a road for machinery to enter into the area, and we would put bypass pipes right here so that water can actually flow through and underneath the road and out. The gate is right here, so it would flow in and go out the gate, so that's managed while machinery is coming in. And we would reach the dam starting on the river right side. So if you're looking up, it would be the left side, and working our way down slowly, gradually demoing the dam, working our way back towards the park itself. And so it would be a gradual process. So eventually, the stream goes through these pipes, but eventually it starts to actually come right in the middle when we're in the middle of the sequence. So it kind of will flow that way. And this whole process would take about 4 to 6 weeks to complete the removal. And we will have the landscape architect on site. He wants to reuse as many of those boulders and rocks within the dam itself. So he'll be stockpiling and sorting as we go. They'll be repurposed in the park itself. So that's considered phase 2 in the plans.
quick question.
Oh, yeah.
Have you put that out to bid yet?
No, what you're looking at is what we would call 75%-ish. And we anticipate the engineering team to give us 90% plans here in the next 2 weeks. And then we actually want to have a final construction manual by the end of October. And then we plan to go to bid in November. That's the earliest, most competitive time period that we can hit. So no, we have not. So yes, a lot of this is, this is what we think could be the best approach. But of course, you're right. There's an asterisk of a contractor can have that flexibility to come up with an approach that may be more efficient, as long as we stick within some compliance measures. But so this is more of a suggested sequence, but
Okay.
there's really no other way to go about it. We're not looking to access the dam from the other side. I know there's town access over there, but we're not looking to disturb or utilize that. So this seems like the most straightforward, just coming in here from the road. The road's up here. Yeah. So prior to July 15th, we think we could mobilize in, again, subject to the contractor, but and prep all this, get all this upland prep done prior to that. So phase 3, what's noted as phase 3 on the engineering plans is the demolition of more of the accessory structures all along the shore here. So to be removed, there's a training wall along the shore that's here, the wooden walkway, there's some piers underneath the wooden walkway, the buttress that's stabilizing the dam, the gate itself, there's some jersey barriers here, those will be taken out. And then this abutment, which is kind of more of like an overlook viewing area, that would remain, and that would be reinforced and stabilized around the outside structural face. There's a water wheel nestled right in here, in the mill foundation, so those pieces would be relocated into the park. They're incorporated into the landscape design, so those will be relocated up to the upland area, so they're more visible and within the park itself. So this is an aerial photo, so it just helps show some of those features that we're describing. And then phase 3, this is the engineering sheet. Hard to see again, I apologize. So here's our access again coming down, and then this black line is a cofferdam, so we can fully isolate that work area, and water can flow right past along the cofferdams, and then that training wall's here and the walkways here. So we would be able to do all of that work when we transition to this phase of the work. So this part of the construction would take the longest. It would take 6 to 8 weeks, but we will have to complete everything by September 30th. So we'll move out of the water by September 30th. So remove the cofferdams and everything in this whole work area. And then I'm not sure how much time people spend down there. So these are just some photos of those features. So here's the training wall that would be removed. That's concrete and undermined here. The walkway with the piers that are underneath of it that are supporting it, the training wall there, and that buttress supporting the dam, and then the gate that's there as well. And just some other views, the wall, the training wall. And then here's that overlook. So you can see it's a little bit unstable. There's some other voids and cracks on the other side too. So this will all be refaced with concrete and reinforced. Just some other views of the same area within that phase 3 construction sequence. And then the overlook, so just working myself out through the construction sequence. So we would complete the in-river work and just move ourselves out upland. And this is a screenshot that's just from the plans. It's in the building, the Wright Pierce building set. It's near the end, a couple of the end pages. So this is the proposed reinforced concrete face that would go on that overlook. So those are dowels. There would be steel dowels that would go into the overlook, so that would be more structurally stable, and then it would wrap itself around, and then we would put the railings on top of that. So this is a schematic of those railings that we would install at the overlook. We worked with the committee, kind of come up with some of these products. And then a photo rendering. So we have the stream, and then the overlook with the new concrete and the railings at that viewing area. So that'll now be next to the stream. So in that same phase, we would stabilize the overlook, and then we are also proposing to restore the tail race, which is going to become the shoreline connecting to the upland area. So you can see from this photo and some of these other photos, this tail race from the mill used to sit right here, is actually man-made, and it's depressed from the rest of the stream. So you can see the main part of the stream is actually higher. So if we left it as it is, water follows the lowest point, and so water would come in, and since we're taking out this concrete and this training wall, it would work itself into the park, and it would also flow next to the overlook itself because we're removing all of this. So we are proposing to restore and fill in this tail race all the way around and stabilize.
Be okay with that?
Yes.
They got an issue with that at first.
They did. But we have worked with them collaboratively over the past 8 months to come up with an approach that makes sense, that's compliant with DEP. The Army Corps has been involved, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA, pretty much all the agencies have been involved with our developing this approach and this detail to stabilize this shoreline area. So the detail that you see in the plan set is a result of all those conversations. So again, this is so fuzzy, but these are some cross sections, and then this is that tail race area that we're proposing to restore and fill in. So on the upstream end with the overlook right here, so your railings would be on this concrete top, and then this structure is a wood structure, so it's a natural feature that helps anchor the corner of this overlook and protect it, and it really pushes all water into the center of the stream. And then the fill right behind it is a composition of large rocks, probably from the dam, but it's infilled with smaller rock and small gravel material so that it's all flush, and that would continue on. And then throughout there's these deflectors in this area, so it's naturalized, and it would be anchored into the ledge itself, and that would just further push and the attraction for water to go downstream. So we're raising the elevation of this tail race and encouraging water to remain downstream. And what will likely happen is, and then we're going to vegetate this whole thing too. So if you're ever down there again at any time, you'll see that this tail race, like the vegetation that's growing right here, and then there's some vegetation growing in this like little islandy area with some sumac. And then down here, there's like Joe Pyeweed and other wetland shrubby plants that are growing in there. That's what's likely going to be the gradient. We're going to mimic that plant palette and create that gradient of wetland, and then it would transition to the upland, where the stairwell, the granite stairs are coming down to meet the shoreline into here. And then when you're looking at these cross sections, you'll see these dotted lines, and those are the water lines after dam removal. We've modeled the stream to understand where the 10-year flood, where the bank full ordinary watermarks would be, and then even the 100-year event, where does that land? And that's closer to 361, so up in here. So it would hit along the slope in here. And that's why in this cross section where we're showing the slope, we are installing the material underneath of the slope so that it can drain and withstand the 100-year event during that time. So that's the shoreline restoration, and that is all the in-river work, and that's so the 3 phases when you look through the engineering sheets of that in-water work. So now I'm going to transition away from all that in-water work and what's happening along next to the stream and focus more on the park improvements. So this is an overall improvement plan. So your road is up here, and then the overlook that I've been talking about is down here. So I'll work ourselves throughout the park and talk about some of these main features. So the entry and the parking, the granite stairwell. We've already talked about the overlook itself. It's going to have a decking with the water wheel nestled in, and then the bathroom will be here, and then the pavilion will be here. And the trails that you see, those are the existing footprint of the trails, so the gist of walking through is pretty much the same. We're just making some improvements throughout. And I think I've mentioned this, but just to reiterate, all of these park improvements have been developed with the committee every step of the way. So we've been working with the agencies, of course, but we're also working with the committee. So they've had feedback on everything you're looking at and have guided the process throughout. So the parking and entry, so coming off Temple Road, we're raising the elevation of the entryway so it's not quite a drop, a dip when you come into the park itself. And then we're utilizing that flat footprint, but really just maximizing the parking, and we're paving the parking area to achieve as many parking spots as we can. And so with this layout, there's 12 standard spaces and then 1 ADA space as well. And then we'd like to formalize that parallel parking along Temple Road in here too. So paving that, here's the existing guardrail. We would extend that guardrail all the way down to support the parking spaces, and there's a little pathway for folks to come into the park itself. And then we're separating right now, it's like a turnaround, like circle situation, driveways for these adjacent residences come in. So we would eliminate that connection with the driveways. So this is not paved any longer. So it's cut off and it's its own entrance in and out to the park. And then we would improve that drive area though into here so that it's more consistent drainage wise, consistent with the park, and just sort of tie up those ends with the driveways with the adjacent landowners as well. So that's the entryway, pretty minimal area improvement, but it's more the orientation with everything. These are the granite stairs. So these granite stairs come along the slope, approaching the overlook itself. And so the granite stairs start at elevation 370 and come all the way down, and they terminate at 352 into the shoreline, essentially, next to the stream. The stairs themselves, we're proposing they would be 6 inches thick. They would all be consistent, 6 inches thick, and then they would be 18 inches deep, but there would be some overlap. As you can see in this schematic, they have to actually nestle in with one another. So the exposed tread, the stair itself would be 1.5 feet exposed. So there would be about 6 inches in this overlap throughout the stair itself. It gets quite steep as you come down into here. So these larger boulders are actually more of a reinforced approach with the slope and then the stairwell coming in. Probably a lot of folks have seen what that would look like when you're walking down a slope with a little bit of reinforcement along the way. And then this is just a close-up of the slope itself, and kind of already talked about this with the 360 elevation with the floodplain. So we're proposing that would all be permeable underneath the slope, but it would still be vegetated on top, so no one would see that, but it would be utilized during 100-year flood events. So that's the stairwell. The bathroom and the pavilion, these are 3D views of each of those structures, those buildings, and then the floor plans of those two structures. So the bathroom itself, actually both of these structures are prefabricated by suppliers, but we are customizing them. So this wooden facade that you see on the outside is all custom, and the pergola is custom, and they're consistent facades, so they sort of tie to one another, and they're pieces of wood that are spaced out to create some depth and consistency aesthetically, and for the committee kind of emulates the historical past of the mills, with the saw cutting and that sort of thing too. So it kind of ties in all these themes And then with the bathroom itself, we're sourcing it from old cast products. It's one stall, single stall. And then this circle, there's a circle you'll see that's just showing the ADA accessibility and just basic fixtures, one entrance in and out. And then this would be the mechanical room for all the utilities. Water, sewer, and electric would be managed out of that mechanical room. And then for the pavilion, it would hold 6 picnic tables within its floor plan. And then again with that facade on the outside itself and along the sides. And that's sourced from Superior Pavilions. And there will be lighting at both, obviously within the bathroom, but then the pavilion will actually have lighting within itself as well. That would be soft up lighting to help folks see, but it would be on a timer that the Parks and Recreation Department would control the timer. Both of these buildings, this was a note I have at the planning board, they're both outside the 100-year flood elevation, almost 15 feet higher than the 100-year flood. Utility plan, so I apologize again, the visibility of this for some reason. But this shows our electric coming in, there's an existing utility pole right here that we would utilize, the water coming in, the sewer. All of those utilities are running along Temple Road, so we're really just connecting into the existing really easily. And they all come in and they're centralized in the bathroom, mechanical room. But there'll be site lighting along the pathways. There's six posts that light up the paths. So here's the design for that. So there are these posts that have lights underneath and they would be wired into the electrical plan. Again, on timers that would be controlled by the rec department. Put those on specific timers throughout the park. And then the pavilion lighting is not on the ground, so that'd be up in the building itself. So those were the buildings, some of the 2 structures we have on site, and then this is the drainage plan. It's one of the sheets, again, from the engineering set that shows all of the grading, and then I've highlighted all of the stormwater catch basins and drain lines that would be running throughout the site. So essentially, stormwater would come through. There are 2 catch basins here. And currently, there are catch basins out there currently, but they actually route, you can see the label on the existing conditions plan, they outlet on this slope that's really steep, and they just outlet right there and then run down the slope into the stream. So we are rerouting the stormwater system to capture runoff throughout the site and manage it. So catch basins here, goes into rain garden, and then after being treated, eventually it would go into the stream itself. And then managing some of the wet areas that build up in here too. And then with the driveway improvements that we'd like to make, so we would manage runoff into the swale and into the rain garden, so that it can be managed a little bit more effectively. This is actually likely going to get tweaked a little bit. Had some comments from the planning board and took a look at that with DEP, and then went back to the engineer to ask him to take a look at managing the stormwater from the parking lot a little bit more, increasing the capacity of this swale. Seems like a likely option. We're also looking at some products that would capture trash and other debris in this from the parking lot. So that's all under review, but could make some changes working with Phil and Dick and Matt to think about the best solutions that would work in the long term. This was from the planning board. So the shoreline zone, this was our impact map. This sort of highlights the fill, the temporary and permanent impacts, and the disturbance area within the shoreline zone itself. So if you look in the plan, there's a dotted line that runs along some of those sheets, and that is the 75-foot offset from the post-dam removal water line. So that captures our shoreline zone throughout the design plans for reference. So these are some of those quantities, most of which is really minimal, and we're reviewing that with DEP and the Army Corps to ensure that we're compliant, but we've been working with them over the past year and a half, so we should be in good shape. But it's all pretty minimal quantities, really small adjustments in the end, most of which is temporary, just to get across and allow machinery to access the site. So I'll just leave it here. This is our overall, can't see it, darn thing, but this is our overall site improvements plan, just to end with the bigger picture of the park improvements and the dam removal at the Walton's Mill site. So happy to discuss any specific points. I have all the sheets with me too, if there was something specific that you were concerned about. But that's where we are right now. And then thinking about our next steps. So I've kind of talked about our goal to go to bid in November. We've already been working with all of our agencies to get our permits in line, but we would formally get all of our permits in the next couple months as well. And the planning board, I would submit my application to Scott by his due date for October. Steve, where did I get Scott from? Steve Kaiser, by his due date, so I would be in the October review meeting for the planning board. But we have Army Corps, DEP, historical, federal compliance for Atlantic salmon, northern long-eared bat. We have a whole list of things that we're trying to work through to go through the process. But we'd be on track to select a contractor by January, and then we would move into the construction for next year. So that's where we are. That's the overall status update.
Josh?
Quick question.
Yes.
Where are you in regards to fundraising?
Fundraising, we are still working through, so as we're developing the plans, it's hard to, our cost estimate becomes out of date the minute that it's put together, since we're constantly evolving the plans and putting things together. I'm still actually working with the engineer to try to get a more up-to-date cost estimate. We haven't really taken a look at things in about a year and a half, last May. So, but in the meantime, actively working with Dick on a couple applications for fundraising and just putting together private applications with different foundations and other public grants we're actively working on. So I don't have a full sense of where exactly we are. It's certainly, like I said, hard to keep up with the things that we're adding on, and then we had to take away a little bit from our budget. So I haven't had time to really sit down and really get a sense of how did the culverts impact this budget and where do things land. All that said, rubber really hits the road when we get bids back. So we're trying to prepare and stay on top of things, but acknowledging that in November, December, all of our estimates go out the window and we take a look at what we have.
Right, so I guess, so do you think you're like 2/3 potentially, 3/4?
Yeah, we're definitely in a comfortable place where we're still having the goal of going to construction next year. So yeah, we're really confident with the fundraising to go to construction next year.
Okay. Well, that's and that kind of leads up to my question earlier about the culverts.
Right.
So say everybody's on board with this whole plan with the park and all that, and then it comes out next summer, oh well, we're short on our fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have to change the pavilion, or we'll have to change the bathroom, or we're gonna have to change.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There's gonna be changes. So, which, as my question is, obviously, I think most people are on board with this, but it's. I just would hate to see that all of a sudden we start changing things because we don't have the money, so we're kind of, this is a less of an option, or the railing, the fence changes, so that, the park committee kind of is like, well, it's not what we wanted, but this is what we got now, So we're giving up the dam in exchange for all this, so I would, as, living in the town, would like to make sure that the funding's there before we just go full-fledged and rip the dam down, and then you're like, well, we can do this and this, but we don't have the money to do anything else.
Yeah, I think that's that's a really great concern, and our course of action would be to delay the project till 2022, or when the funds are in hand for our entire proposal. That's our intention, and I think and I think Dick and I have talked about that a little bit, right? So no, this is a whole package, and the sequence is one entire full swoop, we would not parse out the project. We would postpone. Yeah, and that's still a possibility. I mean, I just have the construction industry has been all over the place. And with the pandemic, I don't even know. No one knows really quite what to expect. So we would postpone though. That would be our course of
So you
action.
would do part and then, well, we'll do the other part.
No, we've made some revisions with the committee along the way, but at this point, no, we would not make any significant drastic changes like that. And any changes we do make, we would go to them. But overall, we would postpone. Is the gist. So
Concern I have as well.
yeah, we would wait.
And we got enough to tear up the dam, but we'll deal with the rest of it later.
No.
Is my fear.
No, we totally recognize that they're one and the same at this point. It's all one project. Mhm. Mhm.
Questions?
Excuse me?
Questions?
I have none. I
Okay.
think she did an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
She did, if I understand.
I hope so. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. I'm seeing that my timer is like 50 minutes, so I appreciate that.
I just want to mention one quick thing about the landscaping plan. There's a very robust planting scheme. and
Oh,
native-
thank
native
you.
Species. One thing, the viewing platform, that concrete wall, it's gonna have some vines
Yeah.
growing up it, so it will kind of conceal that massive concrete.
Yeah, thank you, Dick. There's so many details to everything. It's so hard to hit on everything, but yeah, in the landscaping plan, there's this sheet that actually describes each species as well. And yeah, planting details, planting plan. So yeah, heavy landscaping, trees, shrubs, the vines up the wall, so you won't see the concrete of the overlook itself. Everything will be covered with some sort of plant across the whole area. Yep, heavy landscaping.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead, Judge.
I think I asked it before, but I can't remember. In regards to like the property, the town's property in the park, say once the project's all complete, and the town wanted to adjust something in the park itself, so say they wanted to build a trail along the stream, is the town gonna have to get approval from the Atlantic Salmon Federation?
No.
Or would it just be, obviously, we'd have to make sure we're not causing any runoff into the stream?
Well, that all responsibility was certain. Yeah, no, that would all just be like the normal process that you guys would follow in general with
As long as we don't impede anything.
shoreline zone and everything like that. I will say, yeah, as long as you're not like in the river itself. But even then, we have no regulatory teeth. We're just a nonprofit. So no, we wouldn't weigh in on anything. No, I mean, at the end of the day, when we're done, the park is the town's, everything is up to you guys to take care of or manage as you see fit. The only thing is the property in which we put if approved in the spring, we put under MNRCP, Maine Natural Areas Resource Conservation Program, which is an in lieu fee program. So mitigation money goes into a fund, and I'm trying to find the town property map. I don't know if I can find it this quickly. I have so many files, but it's farther down. It's like when you go to the park and you're in the field, if you go in the woods, all of that was put under, if approved again in the spring, would be put under conservation. So if you start developing in there, a footpath is fine, but if you start developing in there, but we're not involved at that point. You're working with DEP.
Okay.
So even then, we're not involved, but just to give you the full picture.
Yeah, I mean, it has to remain a natural area.
Yeah.
Recreational, and, it's, the only way you would violate that is if we put something like
Yeah.
enterprise there, which you wouldn't do.
Yeah, I don't think, you guys have any intentions to go in the woods there and
And
look
the
around.
same, does that cover any downstream as well?
No,
Okay. So just
no,
like-
it's all upstream. It's pretty much starting at the pavilion along the shore there, where it's pretty much all gonna be wetland anyway. So all those wetlands are conserved, and then in the woods, all of that property, we just kind of drew a line around all of that to conserve all that for the grant. So there's some jurisdiction there, but like Dick said, you'd have to try pretty hard to break it. Yeah. So,
You do.
all right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I'm trying to figure out how to get out here. All right. Thank you. I will just take a couple minutes to demobilize here. I don't know if you want to get the lights or.
There we go. Like that. Great. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, move right along. We'll hear an update on the Keep Maine Healthy grant.
As you know, I mentioned in one of the previous meetings that we did receive this grant in the amount of some $53,000. One of the aspects of this grant that they're encouraging is, of course, is educating the public through different means, including, of course, websites, signage, and so forth. And there's been a lot of push to install these electronic signs that you've seen in different communities. Belgrade has one, Skowhegan. So we've gotten some pricing, ballpark pricing on doing this, and here's an illustration of what it might look like. And this would go out front of the building out here. I've also got a photograph that shows roughly where it would go. That red maple that's out there is we're gonna have to take that tree in order to install this, but that tree is up in the wires anyway. So this is the type of sign that can be programmed from inside the building here. I think the stipulation is that we need to put COVID-related messages up there for the duration of the emergency, and when that's done, hopefully in a year, we can use it for anything, you know, Board of Selectmen's meeting tonight, or those type of municipal messages, kind of what's shown here. So this would be, we would have granite posts, I think I've written that on here, and then we have the logo, the caption at the top, and then the electronic message board, which is two-sided, so you can see it. The good sight distance is good out here. You can see it coming from both directions. And of course, the electrical would be installed out at that pole, taking off of that pole or nearby transformer. And we would have a wireless, probably a modem out there so that we could connect. We just need line of sight to the building in order to change those messages. This is something we would have loved to have for those other signboard messages in town, but there's no practical way to do it unless I guess you could go, if you had your message programmed on a laptop, you could go right down there and enter it at the site. But we don't have the electrical at that location. We looked at possibly Bjorn Park, but we do have electrical there, but we thought this would be a better location where it's more related to town business type of messages eventually. So the $53,000 is, this installation is gonna take up roughly half of the cost of that grant. They're encouraging several, I think 23 municipalities are doing this with this grant money, so it's very popular. I know that there's been some requests to have signage like this in the past. Steve had mentioned it to me a while ago, and of course thank you, Miranda.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Of course, the impediment to that has been the cost.
Yep.
And with this grant, we can easily fund this and additional things like, well, other educational aspects and hand sanitizers at Hippick Field and things like that nature. So I don't have a full list of things that are being priced out, but we do have rough pricing on this. So I wanted to let you know that this is what we're looking at out here with this grant, and make sure, hear any feedback from you if you like it, and I think it'll be a nice addition out here.
So what you're saying underneath where it says fire, police, and rescue, that's a talking sign?
Yes.
It's digital.
Come on your computer and put up whatever message you want? and
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
go out
it's,
there?
yeah, it's digital, yeah, just like that. I don't know about the graphics, if it has that capability, I think it might, but,
Though I know the one down in Belgrade, I spend a lot of time in Belgrade,
yeah.
my son being down there, and that is a sharp sign. That
Mhm.
truly is, and like I say, the imaging, you can do anything you want with it.
Is it one side only?
Two
No, it's
sides.
two-sided.
Both sides?
Yeah, this would be two-sided, yeah. I think you have to have the same message on each side.
Well, I didn't know where you was putting it, if you was putting it up near the building or down by the road.
Down by the road, the next sheet, it should be,
Yeah,
should
check the
be
thing
in
over.
there that shows
I mean, I probably shouldn't
where
turn
we
it
go.
to the next sheet.
But
Oh,
between-
yeah, that's what points right down there, I see
Yeah,
that.
between the parking lot and the access road to the back.
And the maple will disappear.
Yeah, that tree's gonna go. It's kind of stunted anyway.
Josh had something.
So I think it's a great idea. I've always thought it would be good because I've known some people like, where's the town office at?
Yeah,
The area, and
you
you're
get that
like,
a lot.
well, it's
So-
up there, and they're like, where? And you're like, and they're like, oh, that building?
Yeah.
So, because obviously the sign, the old sign or the current
It
sign,
doesn't show up that well.
it doesn't
No.
show. Are you anticipating just keeping that sign?
Probably so, I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't see any need
Reason
to
to change
remove it,
it,
really.
right.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great idea,
It's good.
and it's, I mean, I assume the colors on the top will match all the other signs in town.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about, a bit kind of a
Yeah.
maroon.
That room.
Yeah, the same, like all the
Yeah,
Yeah.
consistent with the other ones, yeah.
No, I think it'd be good, and then it reminds people when the planning board meeting is,
Exactly,
the selectmen's meetings are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get asked those questions a lot too, you know, when those meetings are.
Sure, yeah,
And
this'll,
we might get a little bit more attendance out of it.
yeah,
Maybe.
this'll keep people
Absolutely.
informed.
But,
Hopefully they'll spell municipal right when they write the sign out.
Yeah, I know, I noticed that, yeah. That's from the neocrat.
Technicality,
Yeah,
really.
right, we'll make sure of that.
No, I really like this sign. I was very happy when we heard we were gonna do this.
Good,
I think
good.
it's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely an improvement. Great.
All right, moving right along.
Okay.
Well said. Yeah.
Well, I have a question.
Oh.
So what would be the time frame, if you will, on this? You presented it to us, but when do you look to
Well, it
move
would
it
be
along?
very quickly, this fall, I think, we could get it in by November, you know, certainly before winter conditions.
Okay,
But the grant is on a pretty aggressive time schedule, so we have to meet deadlines with the grant, so we'll be pushing right forward with it.
okay, good.
You all set, Mike?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
All right, move along to number 4. Item 4, consider the application of Betty Jespersen to serve on the budget committee. Richard?
You have her application, and she's written a statement here that's on the back, I think, of her application. You all know Betty, and she was on the budget committee before, and she'd like to come back on.
so moved with a thank you.
Yeah,
For willingness to serve.
Been a motion, get a second? I'll second
You got
that.
the motion?
I'll second. Oh, I thought you said there's been a motion and a second.
No,
No, she would make an excellent candidate and a member and would welcome her.
all right, been a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Just a thank you for a willingness to serve, as always. We're ready for roll call.
Roll call. Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All right. And again, thank you for that. Appreciate that time. Item number 5, to approve a new road name, Finite Road.
Finite
Finite.
Road is, I believe, what they're requesting. This is from Chris Thorndike, and it's off of the South Strong Road, up there a little ways. I don't know if I put the map in there, but it's listed to Bruce Thorndike, I think, that property. So this is for a future building up there, and they've asked for a road name. It's almost up to the Strong Town line.
I think it's right across from my parents' house. It's a new road, isn't it?
I have it up to see if there's a road in there, that's where it is. You can probably tell.
I think that is, cause there's,
There it is.
yeah, cause they sold a lot of, there's a wood lot up there, they cut
Okay,
off.
yeah. Yep. Perfect. What's this?
You all set?
I'm all set.
Yep.
I make a motion that we approve the new name road of Finite Road.
I'll second that.
Been a motion and a second to approve a new road name of Finite Road. No, all three just butchered that, but. Any other questions or comments? No. We're ready for a roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving along to item number 6, to approve 3 municipal quitclaim deeds. Richie?
Yep, and these are all to release any interest the town may have on account of undischarged liens. First one is to Jeffrey York, real estate located at 109 Shawnee Drive, which is up in Oak Hill Estates. Second one is Tony Tyler, 313 South Strong Road. And let's see, Joshua Dunham Senior, Betty Dunham, real estate located at Dunham Road. And that's it.
Yep. Very good.
What's the quitclaim deed for the Dunham property?
They're all to release any interest that the town might have on account of undischarged tax liens, and there are several of them, which means that, you know, they've been paid up, so we get to release the deed, the property back to them.
Just taking the leads off, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Essentially, yeah. I
So
don't have the actual address, it just says Dunham Road, and it's got a map and lot, R10 8D. Dunham Road's fairly short, so it's, the Dunhams is probably up there on the left, I'm
I'm
thinking.
guessing, yeah.
the left and right, I think.
I was thinking that was when we had a big problem with cleaning up the mess and
That
stuff.
place is, yep, Steve worked with them, and
Yep.
it's cleaned up now,
Done well.
pretty good, yeah.
And he was after him for a while. He did well.
I'll move all 3.
Move on 3.
Second.
Right, been a motion and a second for all 3. More questions, comments? No, we're ready for roll call?
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Signatures?
While we're doing this, we can move along to approve a cemetery lot conveyance.
And this is to grant to Roger Robbins of 91 Weeks Mills Road in New Sharon, 2 graves in Fairview Cemetery on the east side, north half of lot number 101.
So move.
I'll second. Got a motion and a second. Any more questions, comments? If not, oh, go ahead, Josh.
Just in regards to this Fairview Cemetery.
Yeah.
Did we plot out anymore? Or planning on plotting out anymore in the near future?
There was a survey was done 2 years ago, I think, and that incorporates where the new roads were
Okay,
put in up there, so there's quite a lot of area that's
okay,
opened up.
alright. I knew we had done some in the past, but I didn't know.
Yeah,
Seemed like we're steadily.
it's good
Yeah,
business.
actually, it says around here, Acme survey dated November 28th, 2017,
Okay.
in almost 3 years.
Alright.
Yeah, they did a bunch of dirt work in there, and it's about the same time.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we've had a motion and a second for the cemetery lot conveyance.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much for
is
that.
the signatures?
Item number 8, we'll approve the minutes of August 25th, 2020.
Make sure everybody touches it.
Sure.
So move the minutes.
All right, thank you. I'll second. Questions, comments? No.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
All righty, thank you for that. Moving on to item number 9, we'll discuss other business. Mr. Fogg, do you have anything tonight?
Well, first, I guess I'd like
That's
to,
it.
That's okay, you
Oh.
can go. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
Can I speak now?
I think you ought to screw that.
First, I'd like to apologize for not being here on time. We went against all COVID social distancing, and 4 or 5 people in the neighborhood brought supper around to eat, and it was our night for them to come. And they said, "Hi, how you doing? Good to see you."
See you later.
And I never entered my head. When she called, I went, "Yow!" I jumped out the door. I went. They
You made it.
completely distracted me. So
Okay.
I apologize. I don't usually plan on missing these. And other than that, I don't know as I do. I haven't had anything. I've had no calls or anybody asking me too many questions about much of anything. So I
That's
think
good.
I'm all set.
All right,
Thank you.
I'll go back to regular order. Dave, do you have anything?
Well, just a couple of personnel items to let you know that we received a resignation from our mechanic, Ken Schmidt. So we're gonna be advertising that position. And we also have a new hire at recycling, it's Peter Brennick. I don't know if you may know him, he was on the fire department, I guess, a few years ago. And so he's taking the place of Brian Halwicks, who left, so.
Okay.
So now
I'm sorry, what was his first name?
Peter Brennick.
Is he the one that does the OSHA training and stuff?
No, I don't know who you're thinking of.
Brennan. Okay.
So that's it. That's all I
That's
have.
Easy night. Josh, anything?
So, yep, I have a couple things. One, real quick, it was, somebody asked me in regards to the Hippie Field
Yeah.
and potential of people staying at the Hippie Field overnight.
We are aware that
Okay.
there has been a party staying down there. The police are aware of it, and they've spoken with them, and talked with Matt about posting the park rules up inside the grandstand where this person has been
Okay.
hanging out. And as you may recall, that their overnight staying in the park is prohibited
Right.
between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. I think, so we need to get that posted, but the person's been spoken to, and I suspect maybe as the weather gets colder, they might move on and find a place.
Okay. Just only reason it brought to my attention, there was a walker that
Yeah.
had gone, and she was kind of diverts now a little bit, because from where she's walking in a couple of times. This person's come out of the woods and not that they've been fine and friendly, but she's just, by
Just
themselves,
jumped
they're a
there,
little,
and yeah.
not sure, so.
Yeah, my understanding is that the person has been spoken to, and they don't seem to be a threat at all.
No.
But it can be rather disconcerting, I know, to see that.
Okay.
That was part of the reason why we put lights up in that
Right.
grandstand and all the way through there, over the sidewalk, so that wouldn't happen, so.
They had just asked me about it, so I
Yeah,
remembered to ask.
we were aware of it and keeping an eye on it, so.
And the other thing I had, in regards to the town dump, a contractor was asking me about the fees. And his experience over the years have been, it could be different from day to day. So my question to you, and I don't know if you've talked with Phil about making it, okay, if this is debris, then it's
Yeah.
debris, if this is not debris, cause
Yeah,
he had experience of one worker when same stuff was charged a different price.
yeah, I
Kinda-
think we've solved that problem now with the personnel change, because we do have set prices for everything that's on the little green brochure that we distribute. And Joe Arsenal, I haven't been down to see it, but I understand he built a box that is
Mhm.
1 cubic yard, and if people question, what's a cubic yard, we have to estimate, since we don't have a scale, we
Right.
can't go by weight, so we have to go by a cubic yard, and we estimate that a full-size pickup truck holds 3 cubic yards.
Right.
And we charge $17 a cubic yard for the demo debris.
Right.
So he can point to that and say, that's what a cubic yard looks like, and that gives people a better idea of the accuracy.
Right.
I think we've also talked about posting the prices for everything down there on the building.
I'm pretty sure they did too.
I'll have to check with that.
There was last time I was down there was an erase board down there, that they had just written all the things down.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they actually have a pamphlet. I didn't realize they had it either until, I don't know, I was given one a couple months ago, because I was just curious. And it's a
That's on
pamphlet,
our
and
website.
it's got everything, right down what everything costs.
Okay.
So I
And
think maybe we need to
examples,
promote that,
Examples
more
of what's
too.
what.
Was, I guess this contractor wasn't necessarily complaining about the cost per se, of like,
Right.
his concern was, one day it's this
Consistency.
amount, and it's the same contracting debris, and then the
Yeah.
next day it's this amount, and then it's
Yep.
Yeah,
that amount, and he's like, is it dependent on who shows up? Cause his concern was that the town's not charging the same amount, so
Right.
we're not actually being compensated for what it's
yeah,
actually costing us as the, you know, the
Yeah.
town, so when we go to dump it,
Yeah.
we're not in a sense losing money, but it's,
right. I think, I've looked at what we're charging versus what we're paying to dispose of it, and I think it covers it should, we're pretty much at a break-even point, but, and I've heard that complaint too before, that they weren't consistent, and I think, like I said, that have been resolved now with the personnel change, but
okay,
we will keep on.
okay, alright.
I've heard the same complaints. And
Yeah,
like I said, with the personnel change, I think a
yes,
lot of my
yeah,
problems went
exactly,
with it.
yeah, we've got 2 guys down there now that I think are pretty
Yep.
on top of things.
They've made a lot of improvements, actually,
Okay,
so, which actually it's getting it so it's fairly coordinated as you go in, it's not just everybody just kind of goes,
Free for all.
yeah, it's,
Right.
you know, they're actually getting some coordination down there,
organized.
which is good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, order.
some
Orders
organization in
and-
order,
Yeah,
a little bit better.
yes, 100%.
Alright, that's just all I had tonight.
And you got an ex-Marine down there, so,
That's right,
you know,
Don't be
you
worried.
can't help but have one,
He's pretty jovial too.
Yeah, especially for Marine.
Yeah, exactly.
You all set, Josh?
Yeah, nice,
All right.
thank you.
I've only got a couple things. Got a letter. It's addressed to all the board. It's on behalf of the Industry Board of Selectmen and the Industry Fire and Rescue Department. We would like to send our sincerest gratitude to you and your fire department for their mutual aid on August 4th with a structure fire at 183 West Mills Road. Having mutual aid from several resources was important as crews were frequently rotated in hot and humid conditions. We are honored and proud that we have such a great mutual aid system in place and we can work together in critical situations as this. Thank you again for your mutual aid and assistance. So that was from the Industry Board of Selectmen, which I thought was kind of nice.
Great. Would
I don't
you
know.
mind if could I have a copy of that,
Absolutely.
and I'll share it with the crew?
Yep, no, I'd send that whole thing right along. I think it's a good idea. I'm
Thank you.
glad to see that, actually. Yeah.
Very nice.
Um, Oh, go ahead.
I do have one other thing. I started paying a little closer attention to Josh's pointing out of coming there with a whistle stop by the,
Yes. Yeah.
there, and boy, now I really notice it. They've got a pretty nice road there that comes right out into the crosswalk when they come out.
Yeah, that's the way it was designed. And I see a lot of people, and I understand there's a conflict there between pedestrian uses, but the whole idea of that crosswalk is to connect one end of the trail to the other end that picks up across the street. And it's snowmobiles or anything crossing there, that's,
Well, I think four-wheelers and snowmobiles would be fine, but what I'm seeing also is vehicles.
well,
Pickups and cars that are coming there using that instead of going up where they should.
no, we can't, the vehicles can access the trailhead there. They have to because there's a big parking lot a little ways down there, as you know, and that's where they can haul their snowmobile trailers in. We can't, I've seen a lot of them use Farmer Lane there, which instead of going in that way, but we can't force them to do that because Farmer Lane it's a private road. It goes to CN Brown, and I guess there's a residence out there.
Mhm.
You guys have a warehouse out there?
Yeah, there's a warehouse at
Store
the
it.
end, and I think Dead Rivers,
So,
Dead River has.
Okay, I hadn't looked at it that way.
yeah, see, that's the issue, and I checked with Jack, and he said there's been no accidents there in 5 years. There was one accident where a deer ran out, I guess, in front of somebody, but there's been no other accidents there.
Okay.
If people are paying attention, I mean, is it not, not conflicting with somebody coming in or coming out, then, that's the way it was designed, so.
Okay.
Okay.
You all set now, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. And the last thing I've got, September 16th, the 1 year anniversary. As everybody knows, we had a little thing down there. I'd like to thank Governor Mills for coming in and doing a little talk. And I'd also like to thank Terry, Tim, and Richard for standing up, giving their statements, and putting what I thought was a very respectful program together. It was short, it was to the point, and I thought it was very nice. And I just wanted to thank all three of you guys for that. I thought we were well represented there.
Yeah.
So
They all did a great job, and I think it was a good day.
Yeah.
It was emotional, but it was
it was a
something
hard
that
day.
had to be done, and I think it went very well.
Yep, I agree with that.
The news media did a good job with it on TV.
Yeah.
They
They
did a
were
good,
very
fair,
respectful. Yeah.
they didn't go crazy over stuff, they
Yeah.
just did a nice, fair representation of what, well, they went a little bit above and beyond, they went with what was said, they televised what was said, and then they put enough effort into it to do a little background and talk a little more, and that was nice.
Yeah.
They did
Yeah.
well.
I agree. I thought that was a good day. It was
Yeah. Well,
we
thank you.
made the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, thank you.
But thank you for that. It was greatly appreciated. So,
Pleasure.
and I guess the only other thing, we had another item to go into executive session, minutes deval, but where there are two of us missing, we're going to put that off till the next meeting. Do we have to vote on that?
To table it, yeah.
To table, okay,
I'll make a motion to table
okay.
item 10.
Do we, second?
I made the motion.
Excuse me, I
Sorry.
didn't hear it.
I'll make the motion to table item 10.
I'd very much like to second that.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Hopefully we can get rid of the colds that are starting to plague us now, and
Yeah.
as cold season's here.
No.
There's been a motion and a second. Questions, comments? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Smith?
Yay.
Mr. Fogg?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
So that will be October 13th.
Yes. Yes.
Very good.
And with that, I'm all set. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that also.
Motion and a second.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fogg?
Yay.
Mr. Bell?
Yay.
Thank you very much.
Very good.